Over the course of the school year, I've studied cars and mainly how they work. Today, I'll convey the basics of my learning in the most simplest way possible because this topic can get very confusing. I know this topic may not be the most interesting to you, but in a couple of years, we'll all be behind the wheel and we'll have the responsibility to maintain and make sure a car is working properly. So the engine is a machine that converts heat from burning gas into energy that turns an axle. When one turns a car on, the spark ignites a mixture of gas and compressed air in a sealed cylinder, which causes it to burn. There are two basic parts of an engine. The lower, heavier part is the cylinder block, while the top is the cylinder head and also a detachable cover. The cylinder head contains valve-controlled passages where air and fuel can enter the cylinder, while byproducts can be disposed of. The lower part is where most of the action occurs, and it contains the crankshaft and camshafts. The crankshafts convert the reciprocating movement of the pistons into rotary movement so it can be used to turn an axle. The lower part also contains mechanisms such as the oil filter, fuel pump, and the oil container called the sump. So, how do engines create power? Well, the pistons are the ones doing most of the work, and they go through a 4-stroke cycle. Firstly, a mixture of mainly gas and air is drawn into the cylinder through valves. Then it is compressed to 1/9 of its original volume. Thirdly, it is ignited, which causes it to burn and rapidly expand. This causes the fourth and final part of the cycle, where the piston thrusts downward. Fun fact, higher horsepower cars require stronger downward thrusts, which is why they're less fuel efficient. To reiterate, after all of this occurs, the downward thrust is changed into rotary movement by the crankshaft. Most cars today have 4 brakes, which are operated by hydraulic systems. The brakes are usually discs or drums. The front brakes play a more important role in stopping the car, because when braking, most of the weight comes off the rear wheels into the front wheels. If a lot of weight comes off the rear wheels can possibly lock and cause a dangerous skid. Due to this, most cars have disc brakes in the front and drum brakes in the rear. However, sports cars and expensive cars use all disc brake systems. If a car dealer or a repair shop asks if you want all disc brakes, say no unless you like to go above 100 miles per hour on a regular basis. Today, most cars have a hydraulic brake system which contains a fuel-filled master cylinder and an empty slave cylinder which are connected by pipes. Don't ask me who came up with those names. So when the brakes are pressed, when the brakes are pressed, a piston is depressed into the master cylinder, which releases fuel to the slave cylinder through pipes. When the slave cylinder gets filled up with this fluid, it causes a piston in it to release and apply to the brakes. Suspension systems are systems of components, springs, shock absorbers, and links that connect the vehicle to the road using tires. Cars today have mainly 2 types of suspension, dependent and independent systems. Dependent car suspensions share a common axle, so when a car travels over a bump, the shock is distributed evenly throughout the car. Independent systems are wheels that are independently connected to the car, so they do not share a common axle. So when an independently suspended car passes over a bump, the shock is only felt by 2 parts of the car. However, as technology has progressed, it has become impossible to tell whether a car is independently or dependently suspended by just riding it. The job of a transmission is to allow an engine operate in its narrow ranges of speeds while providing a wide range of output speeds. If your car is 7-speed automatic, it has 7 gears. If it is 8-speed automatic, it has 8 gears. And today, cars can contain anywhere from 4 to 10 gears. Without transmission, a car would only be able to move at 1 speed. But with the distribution of torque into these gears, cars can travel at many ranges of speeds. So, how is math used in the process of building cars? Artists and designers who draw models of cars for production need to have knowledge of angles and line lengths, as well as geometric shapes. Car wheels are actually circles, for instance, and hoods are really arcs, and windows are really quadrilaterals. Math is also used to calculate which parts which parts manufacturers can deliver at the best price and to determine the final cost of a vehicle. For example, if parts cost X dollars and labor costs Y dollars, and the company wants to make a profit percentage of Z, the company would use a formula that total of sales price equals X plus Y, quantity times Z plus X plus Y. Additionally, each part of a car has to fit together like a glove, or the car won't work properly or be safe. Math is used to measure every part and make sure those parts are the right size, so they come together as designed. This includes everything from the dimensions of screws to the width of the frame. Much of the assembly these days is done by robots, and robots are controlled by specialized computer programs, and these programs must specify exact parameters, which are mathematical equations. And for instance, they must tell a robot to hoist apart X number of feet, apply X pounds of pressure, and distribute X gallons of paint per square inch. Math is used to determine how many cars can be produced in an hour, day, or week, or month. Lastly, math is being used in transmission, navigation, cruise control, windshield wipers, and etc. Hopefully you get the point. So I would consider my project somewhat of a success and somewhat of a failure. First of all, I don't think my project was completely successful because I just dumped a bunch of information into my brain that I may not need in the future. To explain, there are new laws coming out for car dealers and car repair shops that they must tell you what is wrong, not just give you a temporary fix to a problem. Also, so due to this, we won't need to have all this information to make sure that we're not getting ripped off by car repair shops. I would consider my project somewhat of a success because from all this information, because as my passion for cars keeps growing, I've just opened up a new world ready that is yet to be conquered. Also, out of luck, during this project, I found a chart that matches car fluids with smells. So from this chart, my dad and I were able to conclude that our car was leaking power steering oil instead of engine oil, and then they were easily confused because power steering oil just smells like burnt oil. Then for the second part of my project, I decided to design and build a rubber band powered car. It may look easy and simple, but trust me, it's not. On average, it took about approximately 40 minutes to build one, and which is where most of my time went. And throughout the year, I believe I built 7 or 8 of these vehicles. In this picture, the top car was the first one that I built, and it only went 3 inches. The bottom was the 4th one that I built, and it broke the 1-yard milestone. And then I just have that random wheel at the top because my main problem was traction, so I tried using hot glue as traction, but then due to my failed craftsmanship, it didn't work. And then after many prototypes, I made my final, which goes approximately 2.5 yards on a wooden floor.